Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. My name is Ace and I've got more Torchlight 2 content here for you. This time it's the gameplay that goes with the Outlander. And if you are interested in getting some ranged attacks going and definitely have your main weapons be ranged weapons, like for example the bow that I'm using, Outlander is definitely a class you want to take a look at, because I really enjoyed Outlander for a ranged character. Not only does the Outlander have pretty decent and possibly even overpowered damage, depending on how you look at the balancing system, it also has very nice support things, may it be through debuffs or actual buffs and healing. So Outlander, definitely a very fun class to play, even if you don't really like ranged classes. And this, the gameplay that you are seeing is a side quest dungeon, the Plunder Cove, and it has a proper boss at the end, as well as a significant amount of mini bosses. But it's not a main objective, and I kind of figured it was only fitting to, show you guys some content that I haven't covered yet, which was this specific side quest, as well as do an entire run through of a dungeon, because I've shown you guys the last boss of the beta, as well as some other bosses and some outside gameplay, and only a complete dungeon run was practically missing. So here we go. I hope you guys do enjoy it. And I will definitely be at least getting an Outlander in my party if I'm going to do a complete run through, because the Stone Pact is a very powerful buff in both defensive as well as healing, and just the constant AoE as well as range attacks are very powerful, especially in Elite. I do find it increasingly difficult to be, amazingly effective as an engineer or even as a berserker, which is my favorite class, in Elite, and you definitely will have an advantage if you play a ranged character, maybe the Ember Mage or of course the Outlander. And as you can see, I'm just basically kiting it around, because that is the philosophy behind ranged characters, especially through Elite, which is, kiting them around, debuffing, trying to get some blinds on them, because the mini boss otherwise will destroy me. And I'm trying to, keep my distance as a ranged character should be doing. And every time they get too close, I tend to blind them, as you see here. Apply a debuff so I can actually do some damage. Because even though I have a very powerful, unique bow, which is a level 10 bow that I found, very powerful still at my current level, I did find it to be sometimes lacking in damage when it was only default attacks. When it starts proccing certain things, the damage is rather satisfying. It's just that just a plain default attack doesn't really work well on the apologies, on the bosses, at least the mini bosses as well. And this is why I prefer to have a lot of mana available, because as long as you have mana as an Outlander, I can use my, my Clave, as you can see right there, as well as different abilities. And they are very neat to affect. And some people are saying that I should have been using Shadow Shot, and I respectfully disagree. I do cover it in the skill section that I have on the Outlander, and I definitely suggest making sure to check that out when I cover certain skills and possibly talk about potential combos and such. There should be a link at the end of this video that will bring you to the playlist. It will, by the way, have gameplay for every single class as well as skill coverage for every single class. So make sure to check that out. But the thing is with Shadow Shot, the moment you start using it, the projectiles will relatively fade quickly, especially when you start hitting people close to a wall or any other solid object. And the Clave is a lot more reliable in getting the AoE damage done, as well as slowing the enemy down, interrupting the enemy, and doing pretty nice poison damage, which you can actually boost with a passive from Sigil, I believe, Elemental Mastery if I'm not mistaken, from the top of my head. And another mini boss here as well. The circle-like thing you see on the ground that I sometimes put down, that's the AoE debuff, which basically means the enemy will take more physical damage, because it has a 30% physical armor debuff, as well as slowed down, I believe. So definitely something you want to put down on choke points. And imagine if you have a very powerful AoE group, and then you put down debuffs, AoE debuffs like that, you definitely will see an increase in damage, as well as of course the abilities that will allow to take the enemy even, down further, in the sense that they will take more damage or do less damage towards you, which is a debuff the Outlander also has. And the Outlander practically has anything. It has, buffs, debuffs, heals, very nice AoE, very nice pet summoning techniques, may it be through killing enemies or, basically making sure that poison kills enemy, which is rather interesting. I dislike the ability itself, but to each their own. As you can see, I'm just making sure to kite and just to take that mini boss down from range. And as you can see, it does take some time to take down enemies that are stubborn. And when my proc stone happened, and if you, I want to say something a little bit about the charge bar. The Outlander is the only class that has a different type of charge bar, and the charge bar for the Outlander works like a buff. The more charge you have, the bigger the buff that you will get, the passive buff. While for the other classes, it's just a temporary, significant increase in damage output through crits and such. While the Outlander is basically a constant and a very powerful buff that you can also start giving to your friendlies, to your allies, I mean, as well as to your pets, and their pets, of course, depending on how you skill your character. So definitely something you want to look into, which is, I believe, the last point in lore, I believe, from the top of my head. Yeah, I'm not mistaken. I can see it actually right there. So definitely something you want to check out as well. Outlander practically has covered everything all around. The only difference that it has is that it doesn't have melee attacks, which is, well, it doesn't focus around melee attacks. The signature weapons are, of course, bows, pistols, shotguns, and of course the wands apparently as well, which was interesting. Crossbows, by the way, as well, but that, I kind of figured that falls within the bow category. But wands also get a buff as an Outlander through one of the skills. I believe the passive damage of a wand as well as the passive range of a wand increases with certain passive skills that the Outlander has available. So I know wands are very powerful in both damage output as well as the buffs that they can give. But considering it's not a signature weapon of the Outlander, I didn't thought that was going to be something that was actually going to happen. And right here we are almost about to finish up this dungeon. And it's quite nice that Torchlight 2 has a lot of dungeons that, are just laying around basically. You just have to click on a certain thing, then an NPC shows up, and then suddenly you have another dungeon to you that has potential drops that are very nice. And on the ship right there, there's actually a proper boss, and my voice is slowly dying, and I'm happy that this video basically is almost over then before my voice completely dies. Apologies if that bothers you. And you can already tell that there are a lot of choke points right here, and I'm trying to AoE the ads behind the boss through my glaive, which actually bounces around quite a bit, especially considering that I have upgraded it several times to get more bounces and such. And I figured out during this match that I, first of all, don't have a pet available, because you can see my pet is fleeing constantly because of the intense damage the boss does. And on top of that, I always forget to have enough mana pots with me, because I tend to spam a lot, so I always spam mana pots a lot. But enough about that. That was a stupid mistake on my side, so that's my advice to you. Always have mana pots with you. And this is about the end of the video. Make sure to subscribe, make sure to check out the playlist annotation link at the end of this video, and I will catch you guys next time. Take care.